Okay, good morning, everyone. I am currently touring UND for they have this new way to teach math there at this thing called the Math Mall. So me and some other math teachers are there. I will be back at school around lunchtime. So if you need me at any point today, come see me after school or after period 4, and I will be around. Okay. But good morning. We are moving on to our next lesson in our new chapter, and it is parallelograms. And all we're going to do is learn about a parallelogram and use these properties to find missing measures such as angles or side measures, okay? Maybe, there we go. Okay, so where it says properties of a parallelogram, you're going to jot down these properties that I have already typed up, okay? So our first property that we have is that opposite sides are parallel. So on here I showed you, remember what that looks like, those big arrows. That means these two sides are parallel, as are these two. So if you have opposite sides are parallel on a quadrilateral, then it's a parallelogram. Hence the name parallelogram. Our second property is that opposite sides are congruent. So again, remember in a picture, these tick marks tell us that opposite sides are congruent, whereas these would also be congruent here. So just for fun, let's give these values. Let's say this guy is 6, and this guy is 6. Or if this guy was 10, over here you'd also have 10. Our third property is that opposite angles are congruent. So opposite meaning that they are across from each other. So if I were to label this parallelogram A, B, C, and D, I would know that A and C have the same measure, as well as angle B and angle D. So let's say this guy is 100, this guy is 100 degrees, these guys, let's say, are 80. So opposite angles are congruent. Our fourth property, oh boy, this is big. Consecutive angles are supplementary. So consecutive means that they're right next to each other. So if I look here, do you guys agree that these two angles are right next to each other? So if they're right next to each other, they have to add to 180. Just like these guys here have to add to 180. And it goes all the way around. These guys have to add to 180. And even though you can't see this, but these two would have to also add to 180. So consecutive angles are supplementary. Our fifth property is that your diagonals bisect each other. So diagonals go from opposite corners, like here and here, and then they're connected. And then they cut each other in half. Remember, that's what bisect means. So let's say, for instance, this guy right here is 9. And this guy right here is also 9. Similarly, this guy, let's pretend, is 12. And this half over here is 12. Notice that your diagonals themselves, like this whole, you can't see my arms, but this diagonal here and the other diagonal don't have to be congruent. They just bisect each other. And then this one, there's not a space on your little chart, but if you could just jot this underneath it and write 6, because there's actually 6 properties of parallelograms. This one's kind of goofy, but it's if you have one pair of sides that are parallel and congruent. So again, if we look at our picture here, this is telling me they're congruent. And then these arrows are telling me that they're parallel. So if I have both of those things happening on just one pair, just has to be one, then it's a parallelogram. We don't use that one too much, but it is true though, okay? If I went too fast for you at all during those, just go back, rewatch it, or pause it so you can jot those down. But now we're just going to implement these into problems and see what we can do. So our first question is asking us to find the missing measures in the parallelogram. Well, how about before we even look at all of this stuff here, let's just fill in what I can on our picture because that will make filling in so much easier. So let's just start with the obvious things. I know that opposite sides are congruent, so I know that this guy is also 15, which would make AD the same as BC, so this is 8. So I got my sides taken care of. And then remember our angles, opposite angles are congruent. So if this guy right here, angle D is 68, well then I know angle B is also 68. And then remember our last thing is that consecutive angles are supplementary. So if I take 180 minus 68, I will be able to find measure C, which is 112. And again, opposite angles are congruent, so angle C is 112, angle A is also 112. And that should be enough to let us fill this guy over here in. So AD we found to be 8. DC is 15. Measure of angle A is 112. Measure of angle B is 68. Measure of angle C is 112. Let me just check my notes, make sure we're good to go there. 8, 15, 112. Yep, everything checks out, I hope. Alright, might be a good idea if you want to try, you could pause the video now before we start the next one and see how far you get before you get stuck. But if not, I'm going to go ahead and start the next example right now. So this time we're just looking for measures of our missing angles here. So this one's kind of goofy because there's just a lot going on, but again, it's really not that difficult. Be sure to notice here that we are given the measure of angle FED, so if I trace that out, FED, so this big corner angle is 134. So if the whole thing's 134 and this guy right here is 71, well, I can find this missing guy right here by just subtracting, right? So let's just figure out what that guy is. So 134 minus 71 is 63. So now I can plot that down. Again, it's easier just to fill out your diagram before you look for all your missing measures. Okay, so that's helpful. Remember that our consecutive angles here add to 180. And I know this big corner angle here is 134. So if I take 180 minus 134, I can figure out what that guy has to be. So 46 is what we get. So this whole corner angle right here has to add to 46. And part of it's already 21. So that's only leaving me with what? 25 for the missing part? And now I have enough info to fill in my other missing measures. So remember, it's a parallelogram, right guys? So my opposite angles, my opposite sides are parallel lines. Probably going to use just a second here. Let me straighten this up. So if my opposite sides, guys, here are parallel, I have a bunch of alternate interior angles that are congruent, right? So really, if this guy right here is 71, well, this guy right here is 71. This angle right here is 63, well, its alternate interior is also 63. And same thing with my other angles on the opposite sides. 25 right here gives me 25 right there. And lastly, 21. Because remember, parallel lines give us some congruent angles. Alright, let's just see what we were being asked to find. Measure of angle DEC. So trace out DEC for me. DEC. 63. CDE. CDE is this big corner angle. So 25 plus 21 gives me 46. ECD. ECD, just this little guy right there, 71. And then DFE. DFE, where is F? Da, 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 da. Oh, I'm blocking. Okay, DFE is this little guy right here. So 25. Good work, team. Okay, so that was essentially with angles. Now we're going to try to move on to sides. So let's check this out. It says solve for x. Well, kids, what do we know about opposite sides of a parallelogram? I hope you're thinking that they are equal. So an equation I can write is Pn is equal to Lm. So 5x plus 7 is equal to 9x minus 25. All right. So I'm going to bring my x's to the same side. And bring over that 25, so I get 32 is equal to 4x. Divide out x equals 8. X equals 8. Then one more example to top us off for the day. It says find the measure of angle B. Well, right now I know nothing about angle B. So let's kind of forget about B and work with what we do know. So I know something about angle A here and angle C. And what do you guys know about opposite angles? Well, I hope you're thinking that they're equal. So here we go. Set those guys equal to each other. Bring my x's to the same side. Over my 15. Divide out. X equals 13. Well, that's great. But now how is that going to help me? So don't forget, kids, what do we know about consecutive angles in a parallelogram? They add to 180. Well, now that I know what x equals, I can plug in that 13 right there and figure out what the measure of angle A is. So I'm going to write the measure of angle A. So 6 times 13 minus 15. 6 times 13 is 78 minus 15. Subtract it out, I get 63. So now if angle A is 63 degrees, I can subtract it from 180, get the measure of angle B, which is 117. It's kind of all over the place, kids. Hope your hand's a little bit nicer, so I'm just going to write 117, circle it. Okay, in a nutshell, that's kind of like your homework. You're just going to be given different parallelograms to find missing measures. There are 2 proofs. Try your very best to work together to help each other out. Be good for the sub. I'm not sure if they have any mathematical background or not. I doubt it, but maybe they do. Be good, behave, help each other. And again, if you're having any issues, come see me. I'll be here during 4th hour today, okay? See you guys tomorrow.